Hello, beautiful light-filled souls. I would like to clear up some misconceptions about me and my book, Angels in the OR. It's been out almost a year. In April, it'll be a year. The first misconception I'd like to clear up is I am not a guru, nor is anyone who has a near-death experience. But I especially wanted to show how a 22-year-old woman in this culture could go from being a very worldly, lost, terrified on some level, but pretty cold and materialistic on one level, young woman into someone very different after a near death experience, but how the journey is still a challenge. So, definitely a human being, not a saint or celibate. The parts about my story about dating, I cut a lot of that out. So, like, there is some crazy stuff in my files that you did not get to read. But the journey was challenging on many levels. But I wanted to show how the healing always comes from the other side. No matter what you go through, I know that we as souls came in to share our light with the world, to bring inspiration. And no matter what happens in this physical realm, the healing is the spiritual. So, the second point is I am a writer and an academic, and I'm a professor now. My mission from God was to return to earth and be a teacher, and I worked in public schools and now colleges, but I didn't write this book to speak to the choir. I'm so grateful for those of you who are spiritual and understand my experience and read the book. It's really touching. I feel like I have all these great friends now across the country, people who really get me, and that's beautiful. And I wanted to write to that community on some level, but I really, really, and I still do, want that NPR interview and that TED Talk, and want to be interviewed by people who would connect me to a crowd of people who are more materialistic, who are more lost in agnostic belief systems, people who are just hurting. So, my personal mission over the coming years is to speak more often at women's veterans groups, because there are a lot of female veterans who suffer from my level of PTSD, whether it's from being in a foreign country or being raped or just being in battle. I also want to speak at more rape crisis centers, and I care very much about the human trafficking problem that we have all across the world, and not just the sex trafficking, but truly the slavery that exists around this world. When I think about young children and young men and women lost day in and day out, unable to live their lives, I am horrified. And that's another subject, but I just think if we could all agree on one thing, I think we could agree that human trafficking and slavery needs to be eradicated. But I'm a writer and an academic, so I wrote this book to jump out of the spiritual community and to really connect with academics who may be somewhat more open than a lot of people think, and they're at least open enough to listen a lot of times, although some of them probably think I'm crazy as well. But I don't care. I want them to appreciate my writing skills, and at least if they enjoy a memoir, to sit back and go, all right, I'll be a part of her story. Many psychology professors and philosophy professors are open, and that's just part of the realm of academia where I do fit in. I'm an English professor though, and creative writing professor. So third thing, we all have a bias, and me too. I started writing this book when the Me Too movement was just getting started, and I was happy that people were being called out for sexual assault and stalking and rape and these horrendous crimes, and they are crimes. So definitely people need to be held accountable for these things. Now, we all have a bias though, and I'd like to explain that no matter what community you're a part of. So I happen to be a part of writing communities in college and when I was a young woman, and these writing communities were often made up of white men and women. And so I was stalked and harassed by white men. I was treated with sexism by bosses who were white men. I have been told how to live and how to behave and how to think by white men because I'm often in communities with white men. Does that mean that I am biased against white men? No, but it does mean that I've experienced a lot of negativity because there's a certain ownership or possession that some men feel around women of their own race. No, but I'd like to point out that my boyfriend is a white male and older because I'm older and he's older than me. And we're kind of freaks of nature because we both look younger than we are. But do I have a bias? Maybe. We all have a bias by what we've been through. You know, there's a natural tendency. I'm afraid of cars because I was in a horrible car wreck. I'm not afraid of dying, but I don't want to be in another wreck. My body still hurts. So when I encounter a white man with a certain energy that that freaks me out, yeah, I mean, maybe I have a little bit of a bias and I work with that. But in general, I work with diverse populations of people and I get along great with my white male students. I get along great with everyone because you can have a bias and you can also love everyone. And that is what the near death experience teaches us all. And I truly do love everyone at this heart level. I want people to be better. I want them to let go of attachments and to really consider how they treat others. Because I think most of the pain in relationships and the pain in this world is that people sit around and think about, oh, I'm not getting what I need. Oh, my feelings are hurt. Oh, me, in a variety of ways. And they don't think about how they're contributing to this world. The near death experience shows us that service and connection is vital, that get out of yourself and think about how you are making other people feel, not what you need. And that is the key to being more in touch with God, because God looks at the heart. God sees us at our heart level, wants us to be empathetic and know one another and care for one another. Now, this I love everyone. Does that mean that I don't get restraining orders and don't contact the police? No, definitely get restraining orders. And I definitely make police reports and I definitely protect myself in this world. But on a soul level, I wish everyone the best. I wish everyone to live their best life and to treat everyone well because I want a loving world. I want a healed world. I want a rehabilitated world. I want a world that knows to go to nature to heal oneself, that knows to be kind to one another. So, next point, spirituality over materialism. So, many times I think that what is at odds with spirituality and with religious truths is not atheism and agnosticism, but it's really, especially in the US, materialism. That people are far more concerned with their bank accounts, with having more, with survival. And there is a natural and necessary need to focus on survival because without it, we can't be open to our blessings and to what we deserve in this world. And I myself, I give away a lot of free material. I may not be able to continue to do that. I don't know. I might have to focus on teaching more classes in order to survive financially. There is not a ton of money in books, despite what people think. So please don't attack near death experiencers for writing about their journey. There's very few people who become New York Times bestsellers. And even when you do, the amount of time that you put into that, and the amount of marketing and the amount of money that is spent to get there sometimes doesn't even out. And, and I know people who have movie deals in the movies really didn't make that much money and they've barely broken even the money they've raised and the money they've made from even a movie. So try not to be judgmental. But also remember that the key is spirituality. The reason for writing this book is to connect others to the magic of this life. Because I believe at a soul level, we are all just wanting to share our light and give our light to this world. A lot of times, though, people are more concerned with entertainment and survival than they are with spiritual growth, because spiritual growth hurts a little. Growth, it is painful, and you're letting go of old ways of being. And sometimes you have to let go of people in your life too that no longer are vibing in the way that you're vibing. You still love perhaps friends who you don't connect with as frequently, but you've changed. So spiritual growth can be painful, whereas materialism is really just something that's easily accepted. Accomplishments and more money. This is more acceptable than spirituality. Still healing. So, another thing that people criticize me about, and I would like to remind other people that 2 years after writing a book, you can still be healing and you can change and grow. That's why so many authors want to go back and change something about what they've written, because they themselves have grown. But you have to leave it where it is, leave it on the ground, and move forward. I want to read you a portion. Part of healing was learning how to comfort my inner child and how to parent her. A child believes the world will take care of her with deep and abiding faith. So I had to shift into feeling worthy of the love and abundance that I know exist in the presence of God. I connected with my innocence, optimism, and forgiving nature. So that means I connected with it. That didn't mean that I became that 100% of the time. And I think it's honestly kind of narcissistic and cruel to like whip someone who is saying, "Hey, I'm in a healing process," and then you whip them and say, "Well, you're not very healed. You're not very loving." Um, that's not really the point. Someone who's been through extreme abuse can still be in the process of healing. Now, what I do know is I did not write this book for therapy. I could write about sexual assault, I could write about child abuse without shedding a tear, and I could think about the larger community that I'm writing to. I could write thinking about the men and women who I would connect with because of writing this story, and the cultural shift that I might be a part of, because I didn't like what I was hearing from the culture about men and women who've been sexually assaulted. I kept hearing that they're forever damaged, there's no hope, there's going to be a lot of pain and fear that they'll carry in their bodies for the rest of their lives. And I thought, no, that spiritual realm showed me that that is the answer to every physical problem. So the spiritual can clear up PTSD. It might take a while. Might take several different therapists. It might take lots of learning. It might take lots of time in nature. It might take writing about it. It might take speaking about it. It doesn't have to be any of these avenues, writing and speaking. It can simply be having a loving community. And that's so important. Community to me is something that I love creating in my classrooms. That was my mission from God, was to work as a teacher, and I have loved every minute of it, because in community, just one moment of compassion from one soul to another can bring someone's pain level down enormously. So can group therapy, so can spiritual communities where there's a flow of unconditional love. I think there's so much self focus in this world and not enough other focus. And when we pray for one another, when we really send our love and our hope for another's healing, then we do so much good. So I hope that you might take my story, if you connect with it, and pray for everyone you know who has suffered in any way at all, and send out that hope for their healing, because that's what I wanted to do, was spread healing across this world and give people just a tiny bit of hope that, of course, God, the angels, ancestors, and guides can help you overcome trauma in your life. Now, I wrote this book because I had to, because God, the angels, my ancestors, and guides insisted. Halfway through, I almost gave up. I just thought, oh, it's been too long. I've been looking at student writing for way too long, and I just don't have the ability to write like I want to. And of all things, a spirit came to see me. And a lot of people don't read acknowledgments at the end of the book, but I do want to point out that David Foster Wallace, a writer, maybe one of the greatest writers of my generation, the Gen X generation, killed himself. He was also a professor, and I looked at his book and thought, oh my God, I'll never write anything like that. I don't have his vocabulary. He came to me in a dream and he said, girl, don't worry. You know, you got this. You got your own style. And just that connection with him gave me so much energy to finish the book. And then at another time, I just thought, oh, this world can be so cruel. There can be so many people who have terrible things to say to me for writing this book. And of all things, Robin Williams appeared to me and he saw my heart and he said, you have a good heart. And he cleared the room full of people trying to get his attention and just told me that he believed in me and believed in my story. So there is a screenplay connected to my book. And the fact that Robin Williams showed up and helped me gives me a little bit of belief in that possibility. The other point is ancestors. So I felt my ancestors along the way. Your ancestors are there for you. They're often cheering us on. They're like our biggest cheerleading squad. My grandfather and grandmother loved it when I started the first annual Near Death Experience Summit and second annual Near Death Experience Summit. They believed that I was bringing more of heaven to earth. I was bringing more peace. I was reaching beyond the veil, pulling it open just a little bit for other people to really grasp on to that other side, because it's the magic over there that we want more in our lives. We don't want to be stuck here in this materialistic world, stuck with our wounds, stuck with our pain, and not touching the other side that can help us. And I know that God can help us. I know that the angels often just want to hug us and tell us, you're okay, you're fine, you're loved, I'm here for you. They can be a great protection and they can help with PTSD. If you are afraid of a certain situation, call on them frequently to be with you. And definitely ask and you shall receive. Ask God to help you with your wounds. I personally go to nature and ask God to help me with specific moments. And the more specific you are, if it's a particular situation that day, the sooner the healing seems to occur. That we can believe in little ways, sometimes better than bigger ways. So start working on the smaller things and then lead up to the bigger things in your life. But I wrote this book. I mean, think about it. I was a woman who was stalked, harassed, had been through so much. Kind of the last thing I wanted to do was put my story out there publicly. I have a half-written young adult novel, tons of poems, tons of academic essays. There are plenty of things I wanted to be known for and will publish if given the chance in my lifetime, that have nothing to do with my story, that are fictional, that are poetic, that are very different from putting a memoir out there. But it all came together in 2016 when I was interviewed by National Geographic, and I knew that they didn't really do my story justice, so I had to write this, and all the spirits came together and said that I must. We are all connected. This is the final part. So one thing I noticed in the near-death experience is that we're connected. We're all one in this amazing way. And I am someone who believes in cooperation over competition. I think it is the one thing that's going to save us, especially in this country as systems begin to fall apart. It is going to be cooperation and love that heals us. It's going to be cooperation in community that leads to amazing breakthroughs. I see it all the time. Even just a creative writing class, when someone writes about a painful moment in their life and others have empathy, I see that person flourish. When I pray for someone and I know others are praying for them as well, I know that it makes a difference. I know that pain is ratcheted down when we are in community because we're sharing it. And so one of the reasons I have this YouTube channel and why I interview people is to promote people and to help people on their journey. It's been such a joy to hear the near-death experience story and talk with interesting people on my channel, but it's also a service, and I hope I can continue to do it, but I may at some point need to focus more on my survival and on teaching more classes and on doing other things, because this is a free service that I just put out there. I love it though. I'm so moved and touched and enlightened, and I love my community so very much, even though I still want NPR and academic community and other communities to be more expansive in their thinking and just have a moment where their minds are embracing something that maybe they're already open to, but it just reaches a different population of people. But anyway, I totally believe in cooperation and not competition. And if you hear differently, well, that's just not the truth. But thank you for listening, and may you be blessed. And hey, Angels in the OR is on sale. It's a pretty cheap price on Amazon right now. And I also had a little fun over the Christmas break, and the Insta poets have had quite a lot of success because people want to read things that are quick. And so I ended up writing actually, I took stanzas from much longer poems and put them into a shorter stanza to create this short poetic book, which is really about the journey of loving the self, understanding the self, another person, and then most of all, God. But thank you for listening. May you be blessed, and I hope to hear from you soon. And I would appreciate any support if you want to donate my book to a library so other people can read it, or to a veterans group, or to any place that you might think might help someone, rape crisis center, any of those type of places, even jails. I've gotten some letters from prisoners. It's really kind of an amazing journey, all the different places where people want to touch that other side and want healing. And that is why I wrote this book, is to spread healing on a basic level. But may you be blessed.